All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Greetings from the Garden State, powered by the New Jersey Lottery. I'm your host, Mike Ham. We are here in Maplewood, New Jersey today at Perla Oyster Bar with Matthew Chappina. Matthew, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So this is a cool little spot.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that we're also going to talk a little bit about kind of the surrounding area because when we met,
definitely,
that was definitely something we wanted to talk about.
Yep.
But just a cool spot in Maplewood that's kind of an up-and-coming area of the town, right? There's there's you guys here. There's a pizza place over here. There's a pasta shop over on the other side.
Yep.
I mean, there's some excitement around here for Maplewood.
Definitely. It's a new corner of town in terms of business. It's a 100-year-old building, so it's actually not new. But all the businesses around here, it was, if you step back a little bit, the bread stand, which was owned by the same people from Arturo's, former Arturo's, now Artie's.
Yeah.
That opened here. Let's say I've been here about 7 years. They opened right around that time. So that was the first new thing around here.
Yeah.
And that was where Corner Slice is now, which is like 2 doors down from here. So that really started it in this area. And a slow kind of growth. They eventually closed because Arturo's and what was Bread Stand joined together to be Artie's.
Okay.
So he closed those two locations and created the one business, Artie's, which is only 2 blocks away from here. Former like a light manufacturing warehouse kind of space on Newark Way, which is a mixed-use street. That really kicked off sort of the renaissance around here in terms of business. The landlord bought these buildings. All the old commercial tenants were vacated. Around the corner, as you mentioned, the pasta shop, that's Porta Rosa, so it's a good friend of mine named Matt. And he moved in there, at this point, it's a little over a year ago. So that was the next thing that came in down here. And these spaces where we're sitting next door and former bread stand, cleaned up, vanilla boxed by the landlord.
Yeah.
And just sitting there waiting for the right concepts to come along.
Sure.
It was very clear he wanted food. Make a new food destination in Maplewood. Yeah. Bring in like-minded business owners with really cool, exciting new concepts. Nothing corporate. We're all, I'm not from Jersey, but I've been here a long time. We all live in Jersey. Some of us live in Maplewood. Mm-hmm. So it's like mom and pop, homegrown businesses. Yeah. That was really important too for the identity. So I don't want to jump ahead, but like I had started my truck business, which was the preamble to where we're sitting. Mm-hmm. I started that in the fall 23. I had met the landlord. We did some events at Artie's. So I knew the space was here. And at that point, it wasn't really the goal to have a restaurant. Yeah. We're here. It is all an accident. It's all been this weird organic evolution and kind of an accident, really. Happy accident. So it wasn't really like the intention to open a restaurant version of what Perla was when it was the mobile private events company. But, I just kind of, as I started really thinking about it, it was like, I can only be in one place at one time, limited like what I could do out of it. I definitely did some big events and proud of everything that I was doing. But, people only want you on a Friday evening, a Saturday, a Sunday. So, and I could only be in one place at one point. So I really started to, think about it, and the idea started to brew. And about a year ago, a little more than a year ago, I approached him with the idea to open here. Right.
So let's just, for people that are listening. No, it's fine. I love it. So Perla Oyster Bar, I mean, obviously you sell oysters here. Yep. There's other stuff that you do here as well. So let's just kind of take it 30,000 foot view. What is Perla Oyster Bar here in this physical location? And we'll kind of get into the history and stuff of it.
So the oysters are actually like technically 2 items on the menu. Really just one because it's raw and broiled. So it is an oyster bar because that's sort of the identifier, and there's nothing new about an oyster bar. They've been around since, 18th century, 19th century, really common right in New York City, those kinds of places. Yeah. Obviously all on shore areas, like down the shore in Jersey, New England, that kind of thing. I like the idea of the identity as an oyster bar, but having a much more expanded menu offerings. So we kind of break it up into the oyster bar is also sort of like the raw bar, right? So there's clams done several different ways. We have shrimp cocktail, very classic. Several different crudos. Really happy with this scallop dish that I put on a while ago that became a mainstay. Not everything, a lot of stuff had started as specials because it was all growing very organically. I really wasn't sure exactly.
Figuring out what works and what's,
and how people were responding to everything. So slowly adding on things like that. The scallop dish, this tuna, this toro dish that started doing as a special and was just a huge hit. Like lots of traction online, like on social media. People coming in because they saw it and really bringing in customers. So, as a business owner, you start to recognize that stuff. You have to be able to.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't see that stuff coming, then you're not going to be able to grow and evolve your business. And it goes the other way too. Like you see, like what people aren't responding to.
Yeah, right.
And you have to be willing to, put aside ego, put aside whatever. Hey, a lot of hard work went into that. Whatever. Like no, none of that. You have to be willing to change and adapt in the moment. And that's how a lot of the menu has developed. So that's like the raw bar section, which I'm going to continue to grow. We've only been here about 6 months, so there's a lot of time to continue to add on.
Yeah,
we have a very small space here. The actual like quote unquote kitchen area and the shucking station is very small, so have to be careful how much we're like throwing on there because there's obviously a lot of labor involved. There's like the space, you don't have a lot of latitude. So we got to be careful how much we're adding and taking off. Got to take it kind of a little slow.
Yeah.
So I'm going to continue to grow that section of the menu. When I was conceptualizing this in terms of menu, wanting to identify it like a raw bar, oyster bar. So right away, my mind goes to, well, okay, if you're going to go to one of those kinds of places, it's all about sharing, right? You're going to go in like, you and Chrissy had come in that time. Right, sat at the bar. You're always going to have that kind of experience in a place like this, wherever you are sort of in the world, really, like this kind of place. So what else complements that style of dining? I never worked in a tapas restaurant or anything like that, but I like eating that way. I love the communal aspect, shoulder to shoulder, like you're in a tight space, you're meeting new people.
Yeah.
Kind of lends itself to... having a much more fun, casual experience. So, and I like juxtapositions. I love, high and low, that kind of thing. So, really great, high quality food, executed at a really high level.
Sure.
But sort of delivered in a more casual setting.
Yeah.
So I knew this was a small space going in. Wasn't no illusions about that. You can obviously make a, regular sort of type restaurant in a small space, but how am I going to lay it out? How am I going to, deliver? Like, what's really going to what's going to be the point of view when you walk through the door? Just communal,
Yeah.
So support the raw bar menu with something that's a little bit more like a, for lack of a better word, like a tapas style, and in the true sense though, like really reference points to Spain or bistro food that you'd find like in France or something like that, where you're going to go into these wine bars or those kinds of places, and chances are you're gonna be on your feet,
right?
Or you're at a stool like we are now.
Yeah.
You're mingling in with a lot of strangers. Come in either alone or you and the person that you're with, and you leave with like 3 new friends.
Right.
And there's no place around here like that that I know of, at least.
Yeah.
And just as a point of differentiation with whatever else is going on, that's how I wanted to develop the menu. So adding on, a lot of like the pinchos tapas style stuff. So, you have wine bar kind of food.
Right.
Toasts, chicken liver mousse, escargot. We have a roasted chorizo dish that's really popular, like potato chorizo with an aioli, very, very reminiscent of something you find in Spain.
Those skewers we got, which were...
Yeah, the anchovy skewers.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, those are Hilda.
Yeah.
People say Gilda, too. It's like named after the a character from a movie from the 30s called Gilda. I guess it was popular in Spain at the time.
Sure.
And they named it Hilda for some reason because they pronounce Hilda. I really love those. It's so easy. Super punchy, salty, savory, all that kind of stuff. So a lot of the menu is that. So it supports the raw bar experience.
Right.
I didn't want it to have like, the menu has like the raw bar section, and then just like more traditional like apps, entree, dessert, like you'd find in just a more common restaurant, particularly like in a suburban sort of setting.
Yeah, totally.
So that's
Yeah. So you mentioned you've been here for 6 months. You started the truck. What?
So fall of 23,
Fall of
2023.
All right. So what before that? What were you doing? Working in restaurants?
Yeah, I've been in restaurants for a long time.
Okay.
About 20 years. My first jobs when I was a kid was food. Kind of thought that would be my path. When I was 16, 17, growing up in Long Island, worked at like pizza, deli, that kind of stuff. Short order cooking.
Yeah.
Really fell in love with the culture of restaurants. I really love the energy. Like most people that love this, they all say the same thing. So it's not really that uncommon how my
to do it for this long, you have to have some semblance of like a passion for it. Some sort of love.
Exactly. It's like it's not just a passion for food or good food or am I drifting?
Oh no, you're good. I was just checking the time. Sorry, I should have told you that before we started.
It's all those things. It's a passion for like the food and that kind of stuff, but it's also just like the environment, the energy, the kinds of people, fast-paced nature of it. I love the idea of it's like the place is here. Obviously, it's physical. Everything is sort of permanent in some degree, but there's also like this ephemeral quality to restaurants where like right now, right, there's nothing going on back there.
Yeah,
there's really any food. The refrigerators are empty. We're closed for the next couple of days. But it's going to get filled up with stuff. We're going to prep. We're going to bring product in. We're going to build dishes. They're going to get plated. They're going to go to the tables. People can eat it. They go away. It gets cleaned. End of the night, we reset to like kind of what you see.
Yeah.
So I love that I love the nature of that. The sort of like just how it's got this kind of energy to it like that. So I just was attracted to that when I was young. But then kind of drifted. I went to school for other things. I didn't go to school for culinary studies or anything like that. So kind of thought I would take a different path. I was pursuing creative writing, theater, film. Did that for a little bit. Cut to like my mid-late 20s. I was in the city, going to school. Met my now wife. We got married, left school, and it was just sort of wasn't really going to be like much of an option to be a starving artist in New York City. So kind of my second love or my original love, restaurants and food, is kind of how I got back into it.
Yeah.
So that's sort of like I said, mid-20s. So now, cut to about 20 years later. So just started getting jobs in the city, like, line cooking, things like that. My first real like kind of defining job was I started working at a place called Calexico. They started also, ironically, like as a mobile concept, but then it grew into storefronts. And I got in really early when those guys, and I ended up being there for a really long time. I was there for about 10 years. So I grew with the company.
Yeah.
So, started like running the stores and then above that, and now eventually being the culinary director for the whole company. So I did that for a long time, really amazing experience, great people, really defined a lot of how I think about business. At that, sort of towards the tail end of my experience there, I started developing a sandwich concept, and I was road testing it at like Smorgasburg and other kinds of pop-ups. So, I really had that drive to have my own business. I would test that out. Like I said, like at Smorgasburg pop-ups, things like that, and so eventually left there to open that, and I opened up at the Essex Market. But it was right before COVID started.
Great.
Really great timing. I don't want to blame everything on COVID, but it really was challenging because we weren't even operating for, it was like probably 8 months, a little bit longer than we are here now.
Right.
And just got, kicked in the pants like everybody else. Reopening after having to shut down for a little bit, like during the beginnings of the lockdowns and stuff, it just really, the neighborhood really didn't bounce back. It was really hard.
Yeah.
So I ended up just closing that.
You still
shop.
in the city at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was living out here already.
All right.
I was commuting in.
Okay.
And so, closed shop and had a business partner. It kind of fell apart. Don't need to go into that, but that's again not that uncommon for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm out here. I wasn't commuting anymore. I wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in food. Really, at that point, 2 decades or so of in restaurants, particularly in New York City. I don't want to say burnt out. It was more just like I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I still always had that thing, like I needed to have my own business. Like, I really didn't want to like just get back on the train and commute to be a chef somewhere or something else, like in someone else's concept. Right at that time, my wife started her own business, not food at all, in town here. She's in education. She has a business called Saffron Therapeutic Services, located in Maplewood. That's actually like I was plugging it, but I wasn't.
This episode's sponsored by Saffron Education.
Saffron and 511 Valley Street in Maplewood, New Jersey. It's a center for children with autism, other developmental disabilities. So not my passion. My passion though is her, and supporting her. And I had a lot of experience either running my own business or helping to run another business, a much bigger business.
Sure.
So she needed a lot of help and assistance growing that. So I just started helping her develop that business. And so again, I wasn't even sure about food. But as you have that thing that itches.
Oh my God, you got to scratch it.
You got to scratch it, and I kept trying to figure out like if I wanted to get back into it, what would be my path. I was inspired by actually Matt, who owns Porta Rosso, who before he has his storefront here, it was mobile. So during the lockdowns, he had a mobile delivery only pasta, like fresh pasta, things like that. You could buy like meal kits. And he was operating it pretty much a one-man band out of a commissary kitchen. So, and again, not the most original idea in terms of like, I'm going to have this delivery business, but I really liked what he was doing. It was like really high quality, caught on with the demographic around here, not just in like the Soma area, like really like, big radius. Like, well, maybe I can pursue some sort of a mobile, thing like that. I didn't know what that meant at the time. And I kicked around a lot of different ideas. Of course, always would like fall back on my experiences, which was easy. It was like, sandwiches or Mexican food, whatever it was.
Kind of like reboot what you already tried.
Yeah, exactly. And how can I do it? It was like a couple of like factors that I needed to like check off. Right. It was like, can I do it basically by myself?
Right.
Can I do it like either out of my house or out of a commissary kitchen? What's the lowest cost going in? And what's the highest return on that investment, right? All those things, right? Seems pretty, but it's like hard to figure that out, like because what's so special about X, whatever. Like
if you're thinking about that, I'm sure somebody else is also trying to figure that out too. Yeah,
exactly. Like
a race to the bottom.
It needed to be unique and nuanced enough, right? Like a niche kind of thing. So I didn't know what that was. I kicked around different concepts and nothing really seemed to be the right kind of concept. Coincidentally, me and several friends, we threw some parties that were at my house, actually, just because I just had the space. And they centered around oysters. I had a chef friend who was able to get them wholesale costs. And we had several of them, and they just grew and grew and grew, right? Like each time people didn't go to the first one, kind of had like the FOMO and like were now signed on for the next one. It was kind of everyone kicked in money, you paid in wholesale costs, and you brought your own knife. You stood around in tables, sat around, drank, shucked oysters. People brought other food.
That's great.
And I just saw like it just clicked. It was like, wow, this is so specific. But if you love this, like you're going to jump in. Right. And again, there's nothing else like it. And that's kind of how the idea clicked. It was just a weird confluence of I needed to do something private, small, and then these parties, and the idea that you can have like this sort of roving mobile party. Right. And that's kind of how it started. And it was not a plan at all. Like I didn't grow up, on a boat harvesting oysters. I always joke like to tell people that that's the story. But, I always need to be honest. Like I'm not going to tell the fake story, but it's more of a romantic idea that like, oh, I grew up with like my dad was this oyster farm and all that kind of stuff. It wasn't like that at all. I never really even worked in seafood. See, I told you. And then that's how the idea kicked off. And then I was off really. It was like a spark that really lit. And I'm like, okay, now it needs to be mobile. I need to have a branding. I need to have all the things. So I started to figure out like, like have that checklist of all that stuff. Needed a vehicle, needed a name. So just very quickly searching for different kinds of vehicles, I ended up finding this K car. Didn't even know what they were.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I think I saw an analogous concept, like some sort of seafood restaurant or something from, I don't know, like in the South somewhere. They had one that they were doing deliveries with. It wasn't quite exactly how I ended up doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm like, what is that car?
Yeah.
Like I'd never seen one or heard one.
Yeah.
And the second you go online, you realize there's a whole subculture of these things. And so on like Facebook and stuff, there's all these, deep, rabbit holes of K-car and culture. And then I found a guy in Long Island around this time, 2 years ago now, because it was, we just passed Easter.
Yeah.
And I test drove it on Easter that year because we were going out to Long Island to see family. I found a guy, he's an importer, on the way. It was all like, it all lined up the way it
so
worked
serendipitous.
out. Exactly. Like pulled off the highway, got out, test drove it, gave the guy a deposit, and a week later it was at my house.
Awesome.
And I'm like, okay, now I have the car.
Yeah.
What do I do? Right. And at that point, just trying to figure out the branding and the name. I needed to, that's my storefront. So it needed to look a certain way.
Yeah,
right?
so I was going to say, like,
feel.
Yeah, like it's parked. Do you drive that thing around?
Yeah, it's actually, it's around the corner right now.
Yeah,
we can go look at it later.
Yeah.
Oh, you parked over there?
Yeah. But it's like such a defining piece of Perla as a whole, really. Yeah.
It catches your eye. It makes you turn.
Look at that little,
all those
exactly.
things,
Yeah.
and it needed to be that, right? Like I had a minivan at the time. Like I could have easily had like, hey, mobile oysters.
Hey kids, you want some oysters?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like hanging out in front of the school with oysters. Or wouldn't have been the kind of. The style wouldn't have been like I'd be working out of like not the truck, right? A different kind of vehicle. Like it would be like tables and that kind of thing. Like you've seen those too, like with people, and I do that as well. Like if the weather's not right or it's indoors, I could set up tables and bins. But I didn't want it to be like only that. It needed to be, and not a food truck.
Right.
Like that's the other thing too, is that there's a sort of misidentification of it as a food truck, which makes total sense, right?
Sure.
You want to be reductive about it. It's a truck and it's food, right?
Yeah.
But there's nothing. It's just like I call it more like a table on wheels, and that's really what it is. Because I set up everything. It's all modular. There's nothing. There's no refrigeration on the truck. Everything is like incubators and ice down, things like that. So then I got it branded. I worked on it. I worked with a hand painter, helped me with the branding. We painted it on the truck, so all hand painted, which I needed that look. You still need to be proper. It couldn't be like decals. It couldn't have been like one of those magnet things that guys put on their cars. You need to have the certain tone and point of view. Yeah, right. And then that was it. So it got kind of like through the summer, really worked out like how I was gonna launch and approach it, and it was that early. I think it was like September 3rd or something like that. There was a little like a street festival thing that happens in an area over here, and I just set up one day. I had no idea what to expect. I came with 200 oysters, and I had the anchovy toast, which I have as a menu now, and the skewers, and I made a drink, I think, and I set up at the street, and an hour and a half later, I was sold out.
Amazing.
Like just people, no one knew I was going to be there.
Yeah.
I didn't have any presence. I had no social media presence at the time, nothing. And the idea of like the look of it, the feel, it just captured the attention and of the whole town. Right. And then beyond, I made connections with people that day that I have friendships with now. They led to different events like really quickly off of that. So I met Amy, who owns a Maplewood Mercantile in town that day. And on the spot, we planned an event at her place. Cool. And like the poster's right there, actually. Like you see like a month and a half later, we were there doing a big ticketed event. Yeah. So that just gives you an example of how just like quickly just took off. So that was September of 23. And I spoke to the landlord of this space the following February. So it was very quick. Yeah. That I went from like, I'm going to do a side gig, mobile oysters out of my house or whatever. Yeah. And then to like, signing a lease on a space. So, I mean, that's kind of, does that answer the question?
Yeah, definitely.
That's, but like I said before, it's all been like this really strange organic evolution accident. It really was no master plan. If it had been like 2.0 of Perla was to have a restaurant, we probably wouldn't be sitting here.
Sure.
Because I wouldn't be able to map it out. It had to be like
too daunting almost to, get to that point.
Yeah, just the idea that like you're going to like really craft this like, structured plan of we're going to do this first and then this, the business plan was like get some oysters and see if people would buy them out of a truck. Like I really didn't know what to expect. So yeah, I mean, I was come back a little bit like right after I started, like that September, October, like I mean, every week I had 3 or 4. I had back-to-back stuff. So then the menu that I have today was an outgrowth of that. I realized, I needed to have some other options because some people were asking for a little bit more of a robust offering.
Even with just the truck?
Yeah, with the truck, yeah. So I would do more of like a buffet style setup with, again, food that I can execute pretty quickly, easily, that would hold, whether cold or just room temperature. So like my deviled eggs that I have in the menu now, those are on that original other kind of supporting menu. The toast, chicken liver mousse was there as well. I started grilling as well. I've got a Japanese Conrail grill, like the really awesome clay grills that you see in a lot of restaurants, and the Japanese charcoal. And I started doing grilled oysters, which also took off. So I would do that at a lot of events as well. And sometimes they would sell as much, or if not more, than the raw stuff. And then just to jump back ahead to like almost more the present, like just to find this space, and then like, all right, I live in town here. I don't have to commute on the train. It's like I'm like a 6-minute drive from here. I have a at this point living here, a pretty great community of friends and all that I knew would be supportive, and they have their friends and so on. So I knew that like kind of creating this kind of a place here with unintentionally road testing the idea. Like I didn't, again, it wasn't like crowdsourced for the purpose of building a restaurant, but I had done that, built a pretty good following on social media again, I didn't expect that at all. So just all that stuff to feed into supporting this place.
Where does the name Perla come from?
I mean, it's Latin for pearl. Was I off the map?
Perfect.
Yeah, it's Latin for pearl.
Oh, no, you're good. If I'm not looking at you, I'm just checking time. You're good.
I just like the idea of something simple, easy to write, easy to remember. Names should be that way. Like it just didn't want it to be. Like could have been like my last name, like Chappina, Oyster Co, whatever. Like it needs to be something that's like just sort of like easy to remember, easy to say, easy to write down. So that's kind of how I got there. Yeah.
That's cool.
The Mayo Performing Arts Center is the heart of arts and entertainment in Morristown, New Jersey. MPAC presents over 200 events annually and is home to an innovative children's arts education program. To see MPAC's upcoming schedule of world-class concerts, stand-up comedy, family shows, and more, head to mayoarts.org or just click the link in our show notes.
And so it's funny, like we talked about at the very beginning, like here in the restaurant, having almost kind of like the knowledge that you don't want to expand the menu too quick or whatever, and just you want to like kind of because you don't want to overload what you're capable of doing just with the equipment that you have in here. Even with kind of having like the initial success and then the having the opportunity for a physical space. I know that you mentioned that obviously like you could only really do the truck a couple days a week and you have to be in one place at one time. Was there ever like an idea to have like multiple K cars and just have like a couple people out doing stuff and kind of grow it that way, or it was just kind of like, hey, this is just like in your mind, just kind of like the logical next step for what Perla was going to be? I think that idea, it definitely crossed my mind, but what I saw pretty quickly doing the events with the truck was, it has such an immediacy to it. Like I'm literally standing at the back or on the side of it with a bin full of ice and oysters, shucking this close to customers, talking directly, handing them the food. It has that experience. It's not like an ice cream truck or something that can kind of just like drive around. It needs to have, listen, for better or for worse, right? It has to have like the personality attached to it. And
had I started this with like 2 or 3 other friends who were also as passionate and had the same sort of experience and everything like that,
Sure.
possibly, yeah, we could have all had like our own, and we would be delivering the same kind of service that came along with not just like, shucking really great oysters and delivering that product, but delivering the other
experience,
piece, right? The experience of it.
Yeah.
So it's like, I really didn't know how to like, put up an ad on Indeed for like someone who can fill those shoes. Like,
shuck an oyster,
I'm sure that person's out there, or those people are out there, but I don't really know. I didn't really want to pursue that end of it, and it needed to be me, because I'm the one. I am the business and the brand.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that doesn't sound right or something, but that's the truth.
Yeah.
And if I'm not there, at least at this point, it doesn't really have the right sort of tone and point of view. Like,
the impact is just like a little bit different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And it's always about the brand. Too.
Yeah.
Like Perla as a whole.
Yeah. Yeah. So it didn't really cross my mind to get too serious about having like multiple trucks, which is not the worst idea in the world.
Yeah, sure.
But it just felt like having a location like this in my town, small enough to manage, and I built it intentionally. Like we don't have a hood, there's no gas lines, there's very little electrical. Like you can see, it's a convection oven and a broiler. I have some other pieces of equipment that I can plug in to do things, but we'll get there. But I want it to be like it's the raw bar is sort of one of the main focus, and then that other supporting menu, which needed to be served either cold, room temperature, or the few things that we heat up.
Yeah.
So like I was doing the grilled oysters, we had the broiler, now we broil them. Super popular. I wasn't doing clams in the truck. We do a lot of clams. Same deal, like broiled clams. So, but most of the, that's only about, 20% of the menu is hot.
Right. Do you think, and I'm curious, 'cause I didn't know about you until you started telling your story a little bit, the like artistic side of your background? Because like I'm always curious, like especially people that are in creative fields, and like chef does fall under creative field.
Totally.
And kind of like what that path is. And we've had so many different, types of paths, and do you think that has like what the impact that's been on Perla specifically, kind of having that as like a little bit of your background?
Definitely. Yeah. Like having the mind to, be creative. I agree with you. I think being a chef is 100% just as creative of a pursuit as anything else, as a writer, an actor, or anything like that, right? Anything that or a musician, right? Considered more like artistic.
Sure.
But it is. Your self-expression. You have to be able to think outside the box, and deliver something that's like unexpected, but surprising and unexpected at the same time. Like, you know what I mean? What's the phrase? Like, it's like surprising but inevitable. Like when something works, it should be the same thing, right? So that's like any great piece of writing works that way, or music, or any great dish works that way too. Like, you as a customer, maybe you're not thinking about it, and then when you get it, it may sound like a little off the wall, but when you have it and it works, you're like, oh, okay, that makes total sense to me. I didn't think that was going to work, but it did.
Like, why didn't I think of that? Kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have to have that kind of mind. Yeah, I would say, for sure, my other pursuits that I had when I was a little younger totally feed into this, like the idea of the presentation. We're open kitchen, right? It's like the theater of it, so to speak, right?
Sure.
Having that has definitely helped me, I think, to develop as a chef in general. Yeah. But even like in my former jobs and stuff was like just being able to think, trying to like push myself to think differently, more creatively about stuff, take chances,
right?
Not play it safe. Yeah.
Yeah. When you were building out kind of like, I'm sure in your head first, and then obviously like with the actual physical space here, I don't know. I can't really think of another place, not just even in this area, but just kind of like in Jersey in general, that is like this.
Yeah.
Was there like a jumping off point that you had, or just kind of like what you knew could work in a space and like what you knew you needed just based on your experience with the truck?
Yeah. I always liked the idea of having a limited controlled space with like a limited amount of latitude, breathing room. You push yourself kind of into a corner, you know, where you're forced to make choices. I like the idea of being under pressure to make choices. And you can say that about the space, right? It's like we're not even 800 square feet.
Right.
There's a basement, but it's just storage. It's not like there's no prep kitchen down there.
Yeah.
It's not like the dish station's not down there. It's right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know, so being limited, that's again going back to like the creative kind of process that forces you to make choices, and sometimes you make choices that you didn't expect. They just kind of happen. They have the accidents, the evolution. So you try to be really controlling with these things, and I am somewhat of a controlling person in that way. But you also have to be open to the organic, accidental nature of things.
Yeah.
So you need to be able to operate in both of those spaces.
Sure.
I think. So yeah, like the physical space was like that. It took me a while to plot out. You know, you walk in, you have a vanilla box space. The landlord did a great job of just like cleaning it up. New tile, white walls, new HVAC. That was it.
Yeah.
So you come in here, you paper your windows, and you have like a whole stack of blue tape, and you start laying it out. And that was like, so I signed the lease in April, May. For basically 2 months, it was just like taping. And now it's laid out very close to what my initial gut was.
Okay.
When I walked in, I was like, I wanted to be pushed to the window. I wanted to, so if you come by, you're outside, you look through the window, the front has sort of like a fish market feel. I wanted it to be like forward facing. So when you look in, when we're in service, it's all iced down and there's all the raw seafood. I originally had that, and then I changed it a little bit. I wasn't sure if this was going to be a full service restaurant or more of a counter style. Like Porter Rosa is more counter style. Like they have tables and they'll bring you your food, but like you get a number basically, right? Sure. You order your food and they bring it to you. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to have that because that influences a lot of your labor. That influences like the whole thing, you know. So it just took me a while. I really gave myself time to figure out exactly how to lay it out, plot it out. And I was influenced by, going back to what we were talking about before, tapas bars in San Sebastian or something like that, or like a wine bar in Paris, and then in New York City. You know, so what you don't have around here, it's very rare, is to have a place that has the tone of this place.
Right.
You know, everything is like a little bit more traditional suburban. There's plenty of great places. I don't want to like disparage anybody or anything like that, but that's more what you're going to get when you're around here.
Yeah.
When I moved here 7 years ago and started to become friendly with a lot of people, there's a lot of people like me who lived in the city who moved out here. The one common refrain was people were bemoaning what they were missing when they lived in the city.
Sure.
You know, it's easy to say that. It's easy to fall into that. Because you know, it's lacking, and you were also younger, and it's a little more romantic, right?
Yeah.
But I knew it.
The good old days.
Yeah, the good old days.
The old neighborhood.
Yeah. You know, you want to be young again. Yeah. But I get that. Like, and we all lived in those neighborhoods and worked in those neighborhoods, so we know what those places are. And for whatever reason, it's just lacking. Like, I don't know I don't really know why. I don't know if anyone can really answer the question of why. Maybe it's just someone not willing to take a chance.
Sure. I even feel like in like kind of, not that Maplewood's not an established town, but like in some of the other like downtown towns in Jersey, like even just thinking like a Morristown or a Montclair or, you know, places like that, like this kind of space, this kind of place doesn't even exist there. It's like still kind of like to what you're talking about. Like there's plenty of places to go, but they are either like a, you know, a fast casual or like a full on sit down, you know, restaurant. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I had no idea. Had no idea if it was going to work.
Yeah.
And honestly, like you still don't know. Like we've only 6-7 months. It's like, it's still so new and it's really still finding itself. But so far, like having that open kitchen, that openness to it, and I'm here every night. Yeah. Every night we're open, I'm here. I'm right there. I have a lot of really great interactions with customers. And the common thing is that they recognize all those things I was trying to do here. Sure. So that's rewarding. Yeah. It's gratifying that people are getting it. And then just having people just generally feel like the experience is something there's a lot of worldly travel people around here. There's a lot of people that know people live whether from other places, they travel around the world, they travel different parts of the country. But then when they're here, they miss those places. They come here, they sit down, and they feel like, that experience that they had somewhere else was brought here.
Sure.
So it is. It's great to already have gotten that kind of feedback from people.
Yeah. It's certainly a unique experience.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of places with raw bars. There's plenty of places to get like the types of food essentially that you're offering.
Yep.
But just kind of like all encompassing, like the whole thing from like you were talking about the branding before down to like, just like when we came, like we were just, the three of us were talking the whole time, and just like got to know each other a little bit better, and then I learned more about just kind of this community around here and all that. It was phenomenal. So I think it's,
to go back to the businesses around here, we all have similar backgrounds in that we were all kind of came up in the city, whether, like in different styles, different places, but we all have that experience and are all trying to bring that to the businesses, at least in this corner of town, to really give it a different feel, a point of differentiation from what you're going to find other places. Just set apart. And if it's not enough, though, to have something that's different.
Sure.
You got to deliver, right? So being here every night, interacting with it's you or other people in that way, that's what helps to complete that experience,
Yeah. So are you, now that you have the physical space here, and like you said, you are here every night, are you still doing events with the truck?
I'm starting to get back into booking them.
Okay.
I'm going to be at the Baker Street Festival, May 3rd, Saturday, May 3rd. And it's before we open. And trying to get some other stuff, but it is like, it has to line up with what my availability is. My responsibility right now is to be here, making sure this place is running. So if I could do something like during the day on a Saturday, or certainly like an off day, like today's Monday, right? We're doing this on a Monday. That's not common. Someone would want to have like a party on a Monday.
Sure.
But I try to book those. I did build the space out in a way where in the back room we can rearrange the tables and have private events. So we've done. You can buy out the restaurant fully. We've done that. We've had ticketed events here, closed door ticketed events, and then also in blocks of time have a large group in the back. So we could put the tables together. I wanted to have the opportunity to bring in, the party feel that I was getting with the truck into the restaurant. Now, truth be told, a lot of people just strange to me. Whatever, they want the truck. I've had people cancel on me because I wasn't able to come with the truck. So I'm like,
truck,
are you an oyster lover? Or like
a truck lover.
Or a truck lover. So I get it because it's cute and all that kind of stuff, but I can still deliver the same product. Just like, I don't know, I guess it tastes better out of the back of a truck.
Maybe.
Again, unexpected, thing that came out of this whole thing is like, you want to eat oysters out of a truck? Okay. But I try to bring the events in here. We haven't found yet the best way to really market that, just because there's so many things to do. Right, running a restaurant. But I got to get that. I got to get going with that a little bit more. But people reach out all the time, So.
Yeah, I would also say too, and you mentioned it before, and kind of how, like obviously, like the first couple of events went really well. Physical events for you and the truck, but then like the social presence too, also is impressive. Just because it's only been, I guess, would that be not even 2 years? And to kind of be where you're at and people aware of what you're doing. I mean, that's like building a brand. That's like a major piece of it. Was that like intentional or kind of more just like
not really?
Just kind of got away from you a little bit.
It got away from me a little bit, but I definitely control it in a sense. But that's probably a piece of it where my other life really feeds in. Is like I never consider myself like a great photographer or anything like that, but I mean, aside from working with some really great photographers here and there, pretty much everything on my Instagram are pictures that I've taken, and just being able to craft the narrative, is something that my other creative pursuits have really been able to help feed, more so than just sort of like being here operating a restaurant. So that's a rewarding angle of it, but I mean, I'd be lying if I said that I really knew anything about social media. I don't have my own personal social media, like my own personal like Facebook or anything like that. It's all just business. So it wasn't, I never really got into that, but it was only just about the business. So, developing that has been an interesting thing, and I think a lot of it has to do with just again the uniqueness, the niche aspect of this kind of thing, starting with the truck,
sure,
and then the store here. So people just take to it, It's like, and I'm lucky too. Shucked oysters on a platter, or like the other food. It's pretty.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Just like
it does help.
Naturally has. It's like there's not a lot. You don't have to do a lot to it to make it look cool, look nice, and make people get interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, as we're getting closer to the end of this episode, and this has been great.
Yep.
So thank you for having me.
Yep. Thank you.
I know that a lot of the stuff, like you mentioned, like happy accidents or kind of just like all this stuff with Perla specifically is just kind of, like the universe lining up the right way in certain aspects, but also obviously not to take away from like the mindfulness to all the stuff that you're doing. Do you have like a future plan for what this is, or just kind of like getting this to be a success and then seeing what happens after that?
Yeah, I try not to think too far ahead. The farthest I'm really thinking ahead right now is hopefully in the next week or so we're gonna have outdoor seating.
Cool.
So along the sidewalk we have a really nice runway of space, and we're gonna start small and grow it pretty quickly. So we're hoping to be out there this weekend.
Oh, great.
To start, just gotta wait. The weather has not been nice. You live here.
Yeah.
For some reason, this spring is starting off pretty, cold. But once the weather really breaks, we'll have outside. So that we're gonna grow the footprint of the restaurant by almost 2/3.
That's great.
We're at 34 seats in this tiny space, which is a lot. We'll hopefully have another 24 seats out there by like the beginning of the summer.
Awesome.
So that's something that's on the horizon. Like I said, the parties and stuff, try to like figure out how to market that a little bit better. I just want to get this place to a point where, I think we have an amazing staff. I need to mention that. Like my staff is so great. I'm so lucky. Labor staffing is such a hard component of this industry, and more so now than ever.
Sure.
Like, but being really grateful for the people that work here, put in a lot of effort. They deliver really high service. You can look on different reviews that we have already. I get so many other, just not reviews, but like DMs and stuff like that from customers that have had such a great time. It's not just about like the uniqueness of the food or something like that. It's about the whole experience. And hospitality is the most important aspect of this, of what we do.
Sure.
It's more important than the food.
Yep.
100%. So as a chef, as someone who really thinks about food more than anything, I firmly believe if you come into a place and you need to have the hospitality as high as possible, no matter what kind of place you have.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to get people coming back. Not that you had great oysters here or, whatever, like, or the drink or something. It's about that aspect of the experience. So I am part of that because it's an open kitchen, but like our floor staff in particular, just handle customers really, really well. And we have a great clientele as well. We have so many new people still coming in. We're so grateful that we have a lot of repeat people already.
Yep.
As you look at, I recognize so many people now, become friendly with a lot of people now. And you also always see when you do your reports and stuff, you see how many repeat people you have just based on with the sales. So that's amazing too. Like that's just not something that you could plan, really. Like you can't. It's hard to manufacture that.
Yeah.
The only manufacturing aspect of it is just doing your diligence of trying to make sure that you're delivering at a high level of hospitality.
Yeah.
Let the food support that.
Right.
Not the other way around.
Yeah.
Be empathetic with your guests. You're always a guest. I'm a guest in restaurants more than I am working in restaurants.
Sure.
So you always have to remember that you're sitting in that seat too. So something that's like a mantra I always have with the staff is like, you're sitting, the customer's sitting there, you're standing up, you're on display. They're seeing what you're doing, right? And you need to be seeing what they're doing. So you need to be able to like be proactive and anticipate their needs and remember that you're always that person. So you always need something as a guest in a restaurant, and don't ever you can't forget that. You can't forget that you're here to deliver a service. You're here to make people happy, make them comfortable.
Yep.
And we want them to come back, because at the end of the day, this is a business, right? So like we don't want to neglect that aspect of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we need to stay in business, but we want to deliver a great product and deliver a great experience. So yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking to that, just continue honing all that stuff,
Sure.
and just make sure this thing really works. You know, it's got legs, it's going, we're humming along. You know, I'm interested to see you get through a year, right? And like, it really helps to tell like
the full story,
right? Because we started in the early fall, we got through the winter, spring's coming, then the summer. So it's sort of like, you know, I live here, so I'm not oblivious to like how the town is, but it's my first time operating a real business in this town, so it's a little different. So I am curious to see the behaviors of people and how and just how that's going to work, how we get through the summer, into the fall. So
awesome.
That's kind of where,
I love it.
Yeah.
If people want to learn more about Perla, come through, where would you send them to go do that?
Instagram is mainly where everything goes. So Eat Perla is the Instagram handle. You know, we have a website, eatperla.com, but it's really just a landing page with like basic information. Any like, you know, specials, any announcements, stuff like that is generally Instagram. I like the idea, like, you know, I don't have a social media manager, nothing like that. Like it's all me. I want to have it all in like one place.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's right for what I found anyway. That's the one venue to be the most creative.
Sure.
You know, and
visually,
and the visual aspect of it. So yeah, Eat Perla is probably the best place to go on Instagram.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here
and sharing the story. And you know, like I said earlier, like can vouch that the stuff here is great. So it was great getting to know you better. Yeah. So this has been the Greetings Big RSA podcast, powered by the New Jersey Lottery. I'm Mike Ham. We were here at Perla Oyster Bar in Maplewood, New Jersey. Matthew Chappina, Mike Ham. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.